in this blog post, I intend to verbalise some of my thoughts of the week, and I'm going to do this in a kind of improvised way, which should hopefully reflect some of the themes covered in week 10, in which we used voice chat in Second Life. Hopefully doing the post in this way will reflect some of the differences between communicating in an improvised verbal way and through writing, which we've done previously in the blogs and in some of the other communication mediums in Introduction to Digital Environments for Learning. I say roughly structured because I will be using some rough notes for the first part on the Lombard and Ditton paper, but hopefully these notes will appear as an image on the blog as well. So first of all, what are the differences that I'm thinking about between communicating with your voice and communicating in a written format? Well, voice is improvised, as I've said. There's no way for me to edit or rethink what I'm communicating. As I'm speaking, this signal is being recorded, being digitized. In a sense, it's being published in the instant that I'm speaking and I'm making the sound. And if we compare that to a written way of communicating, using something like a word processor or indeed the WYSIWYG kind of editor on the Hollywood Park blog, I would be able to view what I've written, and I would be able to edit that and change it, structure it, hone it, and try to achieve the best possible way through reading that text back. I would be able to spend time on trying to communicate an idea in the best way I think possible. Whereas what I'm doing now is something I'm not going to be able to change, which could be a bad thing. That's in terms of me communicating an idea, but I think what's also interesting about doing a blog post in this way is the person listening to the blog post. So again, we have a difference in how this communication is perceived by the listener or the reader. So a written blog post, the reader will be able to go back and reread sentences in an attempt to understand the ramblings of the madman who wrote the post. They'll be able to take their time to try and understand what the reader was trying to do. Whereas somebody listening to this audio blog post would have to make an effort to rewind and listen back to the audio. So there's less control for the listener as well, and that's something I might dwell on a bit later on. So if I start my kind of improvisation for the moment with some of my notes from the Lombard and Ditton paper, at the heart of it all, the concept of presence. These notes were really about the descriptions of the 6 presences. So these 6 presences are, number 1, presence as social richness. And really how this related to week 10 was, in my thinking, how voice allowed for the kind of traditional norms of social interaction. So things like laughter, intonation in the voice, cadences, the kinds of things that people use every day to communicate more information than simply the meanings of those words. And I felt that's one way that voice allowed for a kind of social richness in communication. There's also something there about the immediacy of quick communication. I think that is mentioned in the paper. And although we could also include things like instant messaging in quick communication, I think there's also something very instant and immediate about voice chat, which has a social dimension to it. So really, social richness for me seemed to be, in the wider sense, the ability for the technology to adhere to or allow for its users to express norms of communication. Okay, number 2 is presence as realism, and that seemed to me to be about the technology's ability to create something which the user could perceive as real, as kind of its ability to create the illusion of reality. And perhaps where Second Life might come in this one is the avatar. So we are, if we're talking about voice chat, rather than just hearing somebody's voice and communicating with them that way, we have the person, we have the avatar to look at. Communication in the real world, in the face-to-face world, usually happens with a body that we can see. So perhaps Second Life provides that in the avatar. Of course, there's other kind of sensory dimensions to that. Second Life provides an ambience, which hopefully we're hearing at the moment on this blog post, which creates the illusion of a space with a fountain, a space with ducks, a space with the wind, and that perhaps creates the illusion that that the user is present in an environment. We also have a wealth of visual cues in Second Life, beyond simply the avatars, but the background, the environment, the geographical space, and the colours that perhaps importantly emulate real world stuff, and that's what I was saying with the audio. We haven't got a bizarre audio soundtrack that reflects a distant, a science fiction kind of environment. We have sounds that reflect real world scenarios: water, ducks, wind, and in the same way, the visual stimulus is landscape, it's sky, it's sea, it's land, it's grass. It's the things that will that provide an illusion of the real world.